Welcome to the TRXL podcast. I'm Evan Troxel, and in this episode, I welcome Tatjana Dzambazova. Tanja is one of those people you might spot across the room and immediately think you need to know that person. Well, I met her in New York last fall, and then I found out everybody already knows her, and everybody has a story about her. Here's why. She trained as an architect in the former Yugoslavia, spent over a decade drafting in Vienna and London, and then more or less fell into a job at Autodesk, who hired her almost instantly because she spoke 6 languages and knew CAD. From there, she became the first product manager for Revit during the years when it went from a shaky concept to the global standard, co-wrote the first 3 books on it, and as employee number 1 of Autodesk's consumer group, initiated the acquisition of Instructables, and with Saul Griffith, built its first digital fabrication tools, helping turn Autodesk from a design company into a design and make company. She also worked on everything from photogrammetry to the early AI lab. She calls herself a chaotic mishmash of a million interests and a generalist. I'd call her a polymath, but she'd hate that, so I won't. These days, she leads AI strategy at Motif, which is a startup founded by a group of former Autodesk colleagues who believe the AEC industry deserves a brand new tool, one built for the age of AI from the ground up, rather than bolted onto something designed 25 years ago. If that sounds like a loaded statement, it is, and we get into exactly what she means by it. In this episode, we explore why she believes the terror of technological expertise is finally ending, what it means to capture an architect's process instead of just hoarding their files, and why she thinks AI could actually bring joy back to architecture. We talk about her wild career path, the bet Autodesk made on Revit, her 5 AI deities, and the difference between automating your work and being handed a thinking partner you could have never afforded. Pay attention to her line in the conversation about her observation that we've started measuring everything by cost and speed, and that faster is not better. Tanja is genuinely worried about what happens to our brains if we stop thinking hard about hard problems, and at the same time, she's more hopeful than almost anyone I've talked to about where this could go for architects who are willing to define their own value before someone else defines it for them. It is a conversation about tools, but really it's about what we want to be known for and whether this moment is a threat or the best opportunity our profession has had in a very long time. As usual, there's an extensive amount of additional information in the show notes, so please be sure to check that out. You can find them directly in your podcast app if you are a paid supporter of TRXL Plus, and if you're a free member, you can find them over on the website, which is at trxl.co. So without further ado, I bring you my wide-ranging conversation with Tatjana Dzambazova. Tanja, welcome to the podcast. Here we go. We're jumping in. Are you ready?
Yeah. I mean, whatever you have for me, I'm ready.
I could not wait to have this conversation with you because when I met you, I guess it was in the fall, yeah, in New York City.
Yes. In New York.
I saw you from across the room, and you're wearing like this H.R. Geiger trench coat that you have, and I was like,
My
"Who?"
apocalyptic outfits,
I was
because
like,
I
"Who
don't live
is?"
in the future. I'm ready for Dune.
That's right. There you go, Dune, even better. So I was like, "Who is that? I need to know who this is." And then I come to find out, like everybody knows Tanja. Everybody knows Tanja. Tanja has done it all. Literally, you've done it all.
Tanja is an old fart who has done a lot of things. Right.
Okay, so for those who have never heard of you, I mean, what do you even say? How do you introduce yourself? Because you literally, like the lesson I feel like here is, it's not finding a path, it's forging a path in this industry. You have forged a very circuitous, incredible path, and I mean, you're a polymath in many ways. How many languages do you know,
Oh
et
my
cetera,
God,
et
do
cetera, et
not
cetera?
say polymath, because then you will be insulting all the polymaths in the world. Um, I'm just a complete chaotic mishmash of millions of interests. And how you say it makes me feel so good about myself, but it's not. You think that there was some intention behind my path, and even if you call it career path, it has totally not been. Um, a big part of why I touched so many different things and why have I started so many different paths was really, on one hand, survival. I've been majority of my life alone. And by being a foreigner in many countries, you never allowed to have a gap between jobs, and you're always looking to, okay, well, what am I good at, and what can I do? And sometimes you can do what you want, and sometimes all of a sudden there is a life change, and you go somewhere else, and people don't agree with what you already know, so you have to look for something else. So somehow between survival mode, then randomness, luck, and frankly, exhausting amount of work. That is kind of what has defined my life path. I don't, I think I've told you once, I don't have a private Tanya and business Tanya. So when I talk about my life, it's not, oh, this is my career and this is my life. It's life. There is one person and one life given. And in that life, humans for me are always the first things. And then just life is so interesting, and there are too many lives in me for the lifetime I'm given. So I'm trying to steal from sleep and touch as many things as I can. And that's why I know nothing. I have touched many things. And I'm a generalist at the best you can imagine. And unlucky for me, the only people I respect are specialists, because they have spent their entire life doing one thing. And I've spent my entire life just being interested in so many things that, oh, I want to try this. Or if I turn around and show you what I've done in the last 3 days, I made some other type of apocalyptic crochet hat. And it's, I don't know what were my parents thinking when they made me, but it's exhausting to be me.
Okay, so I've just
That's
learned
why I
that
enjoy.
you don't respect me because I am can relate
Oh, okay, come
so
on.
closely to what you're saying. I have often described it as trying to live 5 lives at the same time because there's not enough time and there's too many interests, and I imagine probably like me, like projects just never get finished, right? Like it's just
No.
we get to a point, we get bored with the project, we move on to another project that's more enticing, more I don't know. It's just one of those
Yeah, and
things where
it's
you're just
not,
moving.
I hear you. And I'm not really of the type that I'm getting bored with things and why I go to the next thing. It's just there's so many things that are interesting.
Yeah.
So I feel I would be cheating on myself if I did not try something else. I mean, I got to a point where Claude told me that I have too many interests and started to
Your
seriously talk to
therapist,
me about
Claude is the therapist.
literally.
Yeah,
And
right.
I mean, I've arrived to a point where Claude is asking me more questions than I ask him, which is really interesting. So I gotta be careful
You're an
because at
AI
some point
expert,
there'll be a
yeah.
range thing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's true. You're an AI expert, right? I mean, this is what you do now. You are I knew you would. I knew
Right.
you wouldn't own it, but I'm gonna call you one anyway because this is your job now, and I think it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear how people who have this kind of expertise. I mean, this is your current career, right? Is you're handling the AI strategy at Motif, and it's interesting to hear how people are using these kinds of tools because you're trying to figure it out just like the rest of us, right? And because
Yeah,
it's
that's
moving
why I'm
so
laughing when
fast.
you say I'm an expert, because
How
neither
could
am
you be?
I an
Yeah.
expert nor is anybody else. And I was recently at a conference where there were about 70, 80 AE companies, leaders, and everybody is thinking, oh my God, we need AI strategy. But when I spoke with many of them on one-on-one, you realize, I asked them, do you actually understand what AI can do for you? Or have your teams internalized what AI can do for you? And they're like, seriously? No. So the thing is, the industry still needs so much to learn. And I've all my life spent on somehow, luckily, on emerging tech, whatever was interesting and new. I was asked by Carl Basser or Mar Hanspel to go and figure it out. Here are two people, go and figure it out and change the world. This is not a technology like any previous technology. It touches every aspect of life. And it's very difficult for people to wrap their heads around. not just because it's changing so fast, but because it's so non-intuitive that, images can be described with words, that language models can understand physics, etc. It's just so not clear. And this is why, by the way, and this is not to give you compliments and make you blush, but people like you, people like Martin Day, Oliver recently, people who actually create environments in which we can talk, share our fears, our desires, our understandings, is the only way to figure this out. Nobody knows. The people who build the LLMs or any AI tech, they don't know anything about industries. And they often make assumptions that might work for generic enterprises or for consumers. But in industry applications and industry technologies applied in industries are very different, both how you make them, how you consume them, what does it mean, and also how do you do the transition, because nobody will, in the middle of a project, changing even a little software, let alone a complete business model or restructuring the organization, etc. So number one thing is, I think we all have to learn from each other. And I would recommend it's better for a company not to yet make AI strategy before actually internalizing what does it mean. And you can do it in two ways or multiple ways. One is just try out things, try to benchmark them. Even if you don't want to buy 50-point solutions that today exist about AI for this, AI for this, AI for this, at least give them a try to understand how far can it go. How would that change your workflow in the future? What new values does it provide for you, or what new opportunities does it open for you to charge for in the future? So that's one way. Experiment, try, just don't be scared. Do it. And for many architects, AI is the AI rendering, which is great. It starts with that because that was the closest that they could understand. But there is really so much more deeper implications if we do this right. And so that's one thing, try it out. Another thing is just go to places where you can have conversations with others about it without the fear that you would look stupid, that you're asking things that you don't understand. I speak with so many neighbors. As it happens, I have neighbors, architects, and I always, when we talk, and they would say, hey, this might be stupid, but I don't understand. Nothing is stupid. This is not intuitive thing, Yeah. Don't be scared. But also don't go overboard. I mean, doing now trainings on all the methods of how data is trained. If you're not a computer scientist and you will never do that, you don't need to know those things. You need to know what matters for the different types of training so you have the right data in order to leverage something like that. So it starts with education. So as for every other tech, I did the same thing. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, both on the technology side as well as on just trying out things. I don't sleep. I nonstop watch at night YouTube videos or lectures.
That blue light, those screens are terrible for you, Tanja.
No,
You're
I
killing
know.
yourself.
I'm a lot on the audio now. I'm a listener to podcasts when I drive, when I ride, when I do whatever. You gotta learn. But one thing also that I recommend to everybody is when you learn, don't just look at the core tech or at what other architects are doing or what other technology companies are doing in your industry. Always look at other industries. When I was at IDEO and talking about creativity and stuff, I was talking about how all my friends are architects. And then when we go to architectural conferences, who is there? Architects. So we are continuously inbreeding ideas. It is so much more powerful to just go out there and look at what other people are doing in industries that you would never think might have anything to do with you, because patterns and principles cross industries.
Yep.
And it's really interesting to see how, how is AI applied in medicine, or how people think about the future of species with art evolution or whatever they call it, the artificial evolution. There's some really interesting things. But then at the same time, go back to what I always do, to Mother Nature, and understand how, there is a wonderful book, Invisible Worlds, by Ed Young, that talks about all the senses that animals have, and often that we don't, or not in that, not at that power, or not working in the same way. And when you try to understand the physical world today around us and how can that translate, just look at also how other species have sorted out communication, distribution, computation, if you want. It's really interesting. So I'm kind of bipolar in terms of nature is a big inspiration, and then technology is a big inspiration, and trying to cross them into something that can be applied to this world.
Same.
I have no idea what am I doing. I'm just,
bouncing off the walls. Yeah. Okay, so you casually dropped that you worked at IDEO, not Idaho, IDEO, and you've had a long career in the AEC industry in various large software companies, which I would love to hear a little bit about your story of kind of where you've been, because I think it informs, your outlook and the things that because you have this intrinsic motivation to kind of figure things out, or at least just try to figure things out. Like, I think you've been given the goals before. Figure this out. Like you said, you had Carl Bass and Amar Hanspel say, figure this out. And then here you go, figure it out. And I think what you're saying right now, at least with the AI stuff, is like, I don't even know if we can figure it out, but we have to play with it, right? We have to experiment, because it's so pervasive and applicable potentially to all areas of life in a very horizontal way. And I think a lot of times when technology people, or people in firms, leaders, think about technology, they think about it in the vertical. They think about it as it applies to business or design or architecture. But you mentioned it early on in the conversation. It's like Claude asked you more questions than you asked Claude. And that's a very interesting observation to put out there, because when you think about playing with these things and experimenting, it's like you don't have to experiment with it in your domain even. You can experiment with it in so many different ways. But I think all of this is kind of informed by the kind of life that you've led in your career journey of bouncing off the walls. Like you've done so many different things.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short, although I'm a very verbose person. So if you don't stop me talking, I'll probably won't. So just interrupt me at any time. I just wanted to say, I will tell you a little bit about what was my path in the last 20, 30 years. I just want to start with the end and say, why do I say AI is very different? Until now, almost all products that I worked on over 13 products and initiatives. There was a world that existed, that you understood, and then there is this new shiny thing that is happening. Oh, sensors are becoming ubiquitous, or 3D printing technology is starting to become something, whatever the trend was. And then you're trying to figure out, how does this new thing, what values can it unlock? What new things can it bring to help this thing that I already know about? Mm-hmm. What's different today with AI is that the world around us, as we know it, is daily changing. The future we can't even imagine. And that new shiny thing is changing so fast that 3 days off the internet or of computer, it feels like 3 years pass by. Oh my God, Claude has a new Claude design, and OpenAI opened the new model, and it's nuts. So trying to stay sane is already a challenge.
Right.
Because you're now managing two things with the soil under you shifting like a lava lake, and you're just trying to think how to connect certain dots and how to catch yourself on something, and you have to trust your guts. You have to make a bet. Nobody knows what's right. There is nothing right or wrong. But that's the only way if you want to ride this wave. You can also sit on the side and see how others surf and fall, and then at the end, when the ocean is boring and calm, yeah, you miss the waves. You know, it's kind of depending on the person. So anyway, I studied architecture in Yugoslavia, and at the last year of the architectural studies, the university sent a couple of us who were outspoken, who spoke good English, and who were interesting architects, students, to some international design seminar. And Herman Hertzberger, Anton Schweighofer, M. Kohlhaas, Jean Nouvel, Mario Botta, all of these professors were there. And it was 3-4 days working seminar. And the last day we were all to present, and we were 40 students, and each one had to present. And I was like 38 in the row. I'm like, oh my God, these people are sleeping already. What? They're not going to even listen to me. And given that my family is 3 generations of theater and movie actors, I've acted, I'm good on stage. So I just came and I said, I got to wake them up. And I just started telling story. While the others were showing projects that they did in 3 days. How can you make a project in 3 days? I just made an analysis of the task that they gave us. What's good? It was the Diocletianus Palace in Split, the topic. What was good about it? What was bad about it? The opportunities it opens. And I literally just acted how you come into the palace and you first enter this dark inter room between the 2 big gates, and then the second gate, it's an explosion of light and whatever. Obviously, I caught the attention of the professors. I woke up, and 4 or 5 of them offered me a job. Mario Botta said he will put me in a suitcase. Herman Hertzberger said, you gotta come to us.
You're coming with me.
Exactly. So I decided to take upon the offer from Anton Schweighofer, because he was in Vienna. His assistant was also there, and we really connected as friends there. And it was Vienna, Strauss. My father is a composer, so somehow it felt that was the right choice. And that's how I ended up in Vienna. So I stayed in Vienna for about 12 years. I worked as an architect, or better say, as a CAD drafter, because you're not an architect, you're just really drafting. Oh my God, the mistakes I made when I was an architect. Oh gosh, I mean,
I saw you said something in your email to me. It was like,
oh my God,
the mistakes you've made.
So
these have stuck with you. It sounds like these have really stuck with you over the years. They're important.
Oh my God!
Mistakes.
So one was, you know how you draw a rectangle for an MEP opening. If it is on this floor, it's a full line. If it's on the upper floor, it's a dotted line. Well, little Tanja forgot the dotted lines, and I went to the construction site the next day, and there was no hole in the floor, and it was reinforced concrete, and that was painful.
I bet.
The other one was just the stupid junior mistake where you print out something in half scale, but you're supposed to measure the square footage, and the owner goes to present the project, and all of a sudden we have double square footage than everybody else. He called me really annoyed.
You reminded me of like this meme. I don't even know if this is real, but it's like there was some drawing with a cloud, for a change, and then there was a photo of like a cutout cloud shape in the poured in place concrete slab.
Oh, because, I know. Yes.
Yeah,
I know. I've seen those. Yeah, ridiculous. But seriously, man, I would have needed Revit at the time. That was, it was fun. I was clueless after studying, because architectural university is amazing, but it was really more gearing us toward really learning well about the history of architecture, making you be a good thinker, not chase aesthetics, but really more the meaningful architecture. And of course, we had good technical subjects, but I obviously had focused a little bit more on the others. So when I came, I obviously didn't know how a building is built, because I literally went directly from studying to there. It was a learning curve. Anyway, I moved to London from personal reasons. And after 12 years, and a good portfolio of things that I've done in a couple of companies, and also working alone for the city of Vienna on some urban captures and analysis, I figured I can't find a job in London because I was not the Royal Institute of British Architects. And wherever I would talk to headhunters, they would say, oh, you find the first job, we can then find you any job. But, otherwise you have to go for a year and get the certification or this and that. And yeah, living in London as a poor architect and not working for a year for money was not an option. So I started helping out small architectural firms. For a year, I was drawing just toilets for Canary Wharf for some subcontractor, and otherwise, small houses and stuff. Until one day, one of the guys in the office said, hey, Tanja, you speak, at the time, I think I spoke 6 languages. And he said, I found some ads, some companies looking for somebody who knows AutoCAD, and they have 4 positions open for English and French, English and German, English and Italian, English and Spanish. So I looked at it. It was some company that the name was hidden. It was in some village in Surrey. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Forgot about it. And then a couple of weeks later, I was going to Vienna, and I was like, maybe I should send my CV there. Who knows? I arrive in Vienna. That's maybe 3-4 hours later. I got so many calls on my, so many messages on my phone. Long story short, it turns out to be Autodesk. And I didn't even know who Autodesk is. I knew what AutoCAD was. Anyway, long story short, they wanted to interview me immediately. And I said, hey, I just arrived in Vienna. I'm coming back in London on Friday. No, but we want to interview you tomorrow. I said, but I'm not looking for a job instantly, so don't worry. They were so insistent. I had to take interview calls from Vienna, one for languages, one for the knowledge of technology, one for kind of cultural fit. And then Autodesk forced me to come to their office directly from the airport on Friday because they really wanted me to sign. That was the beginning of my career in technology. It was out of necessity. I was not wanted as an architect. And when I think about it today, hey, there are many more talented architects than me, so maybe that was good. So I started my career in Autodesk in product support. And I can tell you, I so strongly recommend to anybody who builds tools to start a career in product support. You build such an empathy about the people who buy your product when they're in stress before a deadline, when something doesn't work. And I started the job. I seriously did not even know AutoCAD that well. And I was supposed to support AutoCAD and 3D Viz and 3D Studio Max. Viz was the architectural version of 3ds Max.
Right.
It exists anymore. But this is what I'll tell you happened. So I'm 6 months in the job, and all of a sudden there is this guy, Jörg Winzenhöller, German. Who is that Frau Dzambazova here? He comes from Germany. And I'm like, me? What are you doing to our clients? Everybody loves you. And basically, I seriously did not even know enough about the product, but I knew enough about human psychology that when somebody logs a case, a support case, and they have trouble, that the first thing they want to know is that a human took the case in their hands, because product support is literally the people you call, which doesn't exist today. You always log cases. That was human calling, right?
You're right.
So I would immediately call them back and say, I have your case. My name is Tanja. This is my number. I don't know the answer yet, but I promise I'll figure it out. And just that thing was what started to get the attention of some of the more senior people in Autodesk, that I was just really, that I cared.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And
cared.
after a year, after a year in London there, they actually offered me that, Jörg Winzenhöller offered me a job to be the technical manager for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and to move to Paris to be more central, and to basically guide the technical application engineers, those were the experts on our products, for the AEC industry. And this was the time when we actually were selling architectural desktop. So I became the evangelist of architectural desktop, going from customer to customer, creating technology conferences, all to explain, look, working with AutoCAD is not the way to do it. And to be very honest with you, architectural desktop was very powerful. It was just incredibly difficult to use. But I still applaud that they understood what is important, how architecture works. It was just really over the head for everybody. And then in the middle of me converting the world to ADT, Autodesk buys Revit. I promise you, from 9,000 people in Autodesk, there were maybe 10 people who actually loved Revit. Everybody hated it. Because why are we buying this stupid shit, excuse my French? We already have architectural desktop. And aside from the people who worked with Carl, I remember there was Jason Winstanley, Carl Bass, a couple of people who were negotiating the company. I'm not in America, I'm in Europe, I know nothing, I just hear that we bought this thing. I tried it and I just said, oh me, this is it.
Interesting.
So,
well, okay, so those 98% of people, 99.9% of people who didn't get it, like you got it, I guess. And so, but do you feel like, okay, obviously there's a threat there because this is what I do, and there's like I protect what I know, what I do, like aspect to it. But there's also that can't be the next version because it looks nothing like this version. It looks nothing like this. It's like when the car came along and it didn't look like a horse, right? It's like, okay, and I'm
it was too big of a jump. Yeah,
a big jump. Yeah, and so I feel like that's happened many times. It's happening today, right? It's like, okay, you're at a startup that's in the BIM, the next version of BIM space, and it doesn't mean that the next version is going to look anything like the version that we have.
And it won't.
Yeah.
It won't, and we can talk about it. But
this episode is made possible with support from Part 3. If you're an architect, you already know construction administration is where projects get messy. Documents buried in inboxes, files scattered across drives or GC software, no clear record of who approved what. It's slow, it's risky, and it's costing your firm time, fees, and trust on every project. Architects deserve better tools for CA, and that's why Part 3 exists. Part 3 is the construction administration platform built for architects, not contractors, not owners, architects. They automate the grunt work behind submittals, RFIs, drawings, and field reports, so your team spends less time clicking and more time designing. It works alongside Procore, Deltek, and Bluebeam, so nothing breaks, but you maintain full control of your data. Submittals get reviewed faster with AI assistance, RFIs get responded to 30% faster, site reports go out in about an hour, straight from the job site. Over 150 leading architecture firms already trust Part 3 to protect their profit, reduce their risk, and keep construction moving. Take back control of CA. Book a demo at part3.io. That's PART3.io. My thanks to Part 3 for supporting this episode of the TRXL podcast. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Look, it's human nature to immediately resist big changes. Mm-hmm. In the case of Autodesk people who didn't like it, it was mainly two reasons. One, and this is all my observation from the other side of the ocean. One is that we were already working on architectural desktop. So all of a sudden you're buying this other product that is also a smarter way to work than AutoCAD. So what's the strategy here? Why are we doing this? So obviously, and all the people who work on architectural desktop were incredibly passionate, smart, and I was coming back from Europe, bringing them new requirements. They were really in the whole groove of making that really a product. But at the same time, the other reason why they did not like Revit is like Revit couldn't do shit at the time. It really could not do much. It was a fantastic concept, but you could not really do much with it on a serious project.
Yeah.
So that made the bitterness of many even bigger. It's like, this is a joke. This will not go anywhere. How did we pay so much money for this thing? And it took a scary person like Carol Bartz to come and make a really very clear and very straightforward talk. Almost like you go home, you bend the tail and come back on Monday and work, or you don't come back. But this is what we're doing.
And so, and what I mean, obviously, that it was a big bet. at some point, right? And
Oh, that was
you don't know if the bet's going to take off or if it's going to work, but it's like they obviously saw the potential of if it couldn't do shit like you said. They
I'm
obviously saw
sorry,
the
I'm
pot.
pouring too much.
No, it's fine. I just did it too. I want to make you feel comfortable here. So to see the potential there, it was like, no,
It was amazing.
we're going all in on this, and I think
It
I mean
was
that's a
really
huge.
going all in. Out of respect for customers who already had ADT, we had to have a transitioning period.
Yeah.
But the company was taking a big bet. It was all in, and nobody knew if this thing will become something. But absolute kudos to Leonid, Rides, and Ian. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad. My brain is starting to dry out, and my names are not anymore
You need to
coming to
drink
me.
more water, Tanya.
Or
We
something
mentioned
else. Um,
that, or something else.
but I mean, seriously, the people who both started Revit and then the team, many of whom I work today at Motif, like Matt Jezik and David Conan and Greg Demchek and Lily Smith and Ilya Bass and Svetan Svetanov, these were brilliant people. And of course, for them, it was also kind of, oh my God, they found themselves in this big company now with all these rules and all this stuff, you know. So it was an adjustment for everybody. But for those who recognize this will be something new and something special, it was undeniable. And you could tell on customers when you present, when you show, it's almost a disbelief at that time. It was almost like, oh my God. And we just really went all in. And the first 2 years of us having bought Revit, or 1.5 year, I was now with my technical specialists in EMEA trying to figure out the tool, trying to figure out how the Revit family editor works, because we were supposed to make French families, which Philippe Drouin, an expert, did. We were supposed to do Italian families, which was Gianluca Lange and Andrea Torre and Gotthard Lanz. So we were doing the work while learning about the work, because there was no documentation. We were trying to figure it out, while already the team in America was trying to add more people and start to scale the product. But oh my God, I love talking about Revit and seeing the faces of architects light up. And some of the smaller architects who started to buy Revit, I remember one French architect came to me and said, Tanya, do you know what I do? I do a project, I finish it, I put it in the drawer, I go 5 days skiing, I come back and I give it to the client. Because he said, if I give the client immediately after I finish, he will never pay me for that time. Because he will say, wait, you did it in 2 days and you're asking so much money. So those were the first moments of discovery, I was, there was a VP in Paris, Carsten Popp, and he had just bought a house in Versailles, and they had some side house that they wanted to renovate, and I was helping him and his wife. Just, I put it in Revit, and in front of them, I started to make changes. I started to design. Then they say, oh, how about this, how about that? And that instant feedback and letting the client feel that they are part of the decision-making, that was huge. That was really, and immediately see the repercussions on cost, on this, on that, on light. It was really beautiful. But then at some point I said, okay, I don't want anymore to just talk about this product. I actually want to help make it walk the talk, because soon after you realize, well, it doesn't do this and it doesn't do that, or not well enough. It was you run, doop, you fall in a hole. Again, you run, doop, you fall in a hole. So there
I
was a
remember
need
those days. Yeah.
to close those holes. So as it happened, the team in Boston opened the position for product manager of Revit, and I applied. And I believe Matt Jezik and David Conan also applied, and I got the job. And I always joke with Matt that he never forgave me for that. We worked obviously great as a team. They were the designers, but that is why I moved into Boston. And those were the 3 years of scaling of Revit. That was 2005 to 2008. where we really started to scale the capability, redid the engine, internationalized everywhere. I was literally going 3 days in Japan, talk to the Japanese housemakers, then go to Russia and talk to the government who uses illegal copies of AutoCAD to persuade them to convert to Revit, and then go to South Africa. It was globetrotting all around the world, spreading the goodness, showing that there is a better way to work, understanding what people want in the localities, and working with governments to set things as standard. And also just understanding the structure of an architectural firm. Before Revit, the CAD managers were the gods, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you bring Revit, it has nothing to do with anything that I've done before. And if you did it wrong, they would have become your biggest enemies. Because if you just came and, hey, everybody, I want to show you something, that's not a good thing. So what we were trying to do is to first connect with the CAD managers and say, hey, you're the technology person in this company. There is a new technology. Let me show you. And if you think this is something, you introduce the technology in the company. That was the one strategy. And the other one was just talking to owners, because they would have benefited from the return of investment on both owners, principals in offices, but also owners as in property developers or owners, because for them, the return of investment was really undeniable. And they would have had much longer legs from the project, because then it goes to facilities or to construction and quantity takeoffs and this and that. It was an incredibly fun time. I made the biggest friends of my life during that period. Mark Bassett, who unfortunately died last year, was one of the customers who has helped me most bring Revit with the team to the level it became, a professional tool that you could build Freedom Tower with. He actually was part with Richard Herpen of the original Revit, and then started after the acquisition, he started working in different firms, converting them to Revit. But there were some people who really became so close because we all cared to do. We felt like it's a once in a lifetime mission to do something right. And hey, look at it, 25 years later, it's still the standard of the industry. It's still, the people who are now getting trained on that is how fast our industry is moving, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was 25 years ago. There's a lot that happened since, and the industry probably deserves a new tool. But anyway, long story short, not short, after 3 years in Revit, Carl Bass said that had a strategy to make all the products have the Windows toolbar, the ribbon bar, that all the products in Autodesk, because the value of Autodesk having so many products was only if they hold hands. Mm-hmm. And if the experience of using them was similar. So one year he said, we have 3 projects for this year for every team, putting the ribbon bar, making the data schema, something like that, to talk to each other, every product, and then the graphics. To me as a product manager, meant that I would for a year go to customers, listen to them, everything that they cannot do, and I can't do anything because I have to work on the ribbon and on the other 2 initiatives because it was big projects. So it felt like it's the right time to move on. And I moved to California because the business development team in California, they were a global team, but they asked me to join that team, and we started to work on Inventor for Revit and Maya for Revit initiatives, where we started to understand that, if you work on curtain walls, well, you want also to know the mechanics of it because we worked with Perma Stelisa, or looking at Zaha Hadid and her use of Maya, how can we make the integration better and stuff. And then one day there, after half a year of doing that project initiative, Carl and Mark came to me and said, we want you to start thinking. First, they asked me to look at Second Life. Tanja, go and figure out what's this thing. After a couple of months on Second Life, and I tried to make an island, and I tried to make events with some famous people, I told them, hands off this thing. please don't do anything here.
Why? Was it
And
a dumpster
sure
fire or
enough,
what?
sure enough, 2 months later, it was all porn and gambling. It was too early, and frankly, Second Life, they were a great team, but they wanted to do everything on their own. They didn't want to connect with our modeling tools. They wanted to do their own thing. It was not yet figured out. But sometimes I think I've helped the company just as much with doing things as with asking them not to do certain things.
Yeah,
That was one
right.
of those. Anyway, then I was asked by Carl and Damar to start thinking about software for children and for the maker movement. The maker movement started to be, in full swing, although the maker fair has been existing for years, but all of a sudden we started to see the first, homemade 3D printers, glue guns, laser cutters starting to become cheaper and stuff. So that was fun. I have no idea where to start. All I know is that I was put to do that as a part of the AutoCAD team, and every single meeting was starting with, why are we doing this stupid thing when we have real customers? And after 6 months of that and me trying to bring so many ideas, I told Carl, if you're serious about this, this has to be a separate division, because I can't start every meeting just questioning why are we even doing this. That's not going to go far. So we created the consumer group, and Amar was leading that, Amar Hanspel. Later, it got even more separated in a separate group. But that is when I worked on the whole ecosystem. It was not just one product. I called it 1 to 3D. And what I meant by that is 1D as in sketching, 2D as in paper crafting, and 3D as in 3D modeling. But it was also 1, 2, 3D. Let's go into the design. And I tell you all my stories. Anyway, what we did there was, number one, we tried to build a really simple 3D modeler that people can understand how to use. But more interestingly, and I can show you maybe later, with a genius guy called Saul Griffith from other labs, we developed also a tool that was called 123D Make, which is now a slicer for fusion, which was basically the whole motivation for me, and especially when I talked to Saul, was all about doing stuff. And I did not want to imagine that the kids of the future will just stick their noses in computer. And I wanted to see how can we help them make physical things for the real world using technology. So we made this tool that basically you model something. Either you start by downloading models. We partnered with, oh my God, what was the name?
Is it TurboSquid? Yeah.
Yes, we partnered with TurboSquid. So you could download a model, change it a little bit, and then you want to make it, you can 3D print it, or you can then laser cut it. And the whole point
Slice it up. Yeah.
of this software was you could say, I have a cardboard that is this thick, I want my object to be this big, and the software would slice it horizontally, vertically, or in interlock. We actually built 7 algorithms, and Autodesk only productized 2 of those. We had a lot more algorithms. How to turn it into faceted triangular mesh, and you don't do your podcast visual, but I would love to show you once. It was just so much fun. And so anyway, we got so much attention, and I talked a lot with the maker movement. And one day I was in New York on the Maker Fair in New York and gave a talk about the future, both of how kids can start to use technology to make stuff, but also how the maker movement can be empowered so much more with new technologies. And after the talk, there is this guy comes to me, and like a Japanese person gave me very gently his business card, and he said, Tatjana, you inspired me so much. Can we connect? And I see a white business card, and with golden letters, it says, the Deputy of Education for President Obama. I was like, oh my God, yes. The next week, that was Tom Khalil, and the next week he pinged me and he said, Tatjana, is it okay if I quote you in front of the president? I said, sure. So he really loved the whole story about bringing technology in education from early on. And then a week later, he said, the president is very interested to talk to you guys, and Carl Bass went to the White House. That was the story of that.
That's cool.
Very often, when you work on new technologies, which has been my entire career, at least my motivation is immediately to tell the world about it and to teach everybody. I never sell. I have probably sold a lot and more than salespeople, but I'm never in a sales mode. I want people to understand, why do I love this thing? Why do I believe in it? And and really teach them. It's fascinating to see how much people just love to learn, you know, and when they see that somebody's not trying to shove something down their throats, but really, that, oh my God, that's possible. Even if they don't ever use the tool, you have sparkled something in them. I will never forget. Do you remember Architectural Studio?
No, I
This
don't
was,
think so.
oh yeah. So Autodesk had a fantastic product, Architectural Studio,
Okay.
that bug look, and oh my God, again, the names are, I'm so bad. It was basically a tool for tablet, and the tablets were so expensive. They were just not yet existing. There was only Wacom. You sketch something, it converts it to vector. The vector converts it into surfaces that became architectural desktop models, 3D models that you could open in architectural desktop. But you could, in the tool, also perspective match, put photography. It was awesome.
Wow.
Philip Stark adored it. Renzo Piano adored it. I was selling it to them. Anyway, I presented that software in Louvre on the very first ever HP tablet. Imagine, it didn't work.
Right.
But we were split in 3 groups, and there was, I think, Coral Draw was showing in the one group, and then we were rotating. And I will never forget, there was an investor from Silicon Valley at that event. And after I presented, he came to me and he said, Tatjana, I have no idea what you were selling, but I'm buying it.
You weren't selling anything.
Exactly. I was showing how you can use new digital tablets and technology. But I think coming back to evangelism, because at some point I was a technology whisperer and I was joking, but people have really been very grateful when you translate unknown, uncomfortable, new technology concepts, especially if they're such that all of a sudden announce a big change, in a way that they can understand it. And I've been doing really, as a part of the product management job, one is to figure out what to do and work with design and engineering to bring them use cases, to help them build it. But the other one is really the outside work, where you try to inspire people to at least want to try and explain to them why is that important. Sometimes it's because it's really smarter way to work. And sometimes, frankly, it's because it's fun, and that's okay. It doesn't always have to solve a problem. We are not creatures made just for efficiency and for productivity. We also need to feel joy and to feel empowerment. And that was then the thread. And I evolved, I think, as a product manager, in somebody who was more interested in how a tool lets you make something than what the tool does. Because as software started to improve, every software does the same. The point is the how. If it makes me feel stupid, if it makes me feel like,
Frustrated.
oh my God, I have to learn, and after 3 days I forgot, that to me is not the right tool. To me is not.
To your point, look at the SketchUp story. I mean, I did a podcast with Brad Shell from SketchUp, who and it's like exactly to your point. And there's so many people who used very powerful tools, who were looking down their noses at SketchUp, at the people who were and as a tool as that wasn't as powerful, wasn't as didn't do all these things, lots of holes in it, right? But people enjoyed it. And to your point, it's like if they're having fun and then it inspires them to create better things because they're actually enjoying doing it. And this has always been kind of a technology conversation that's going on.
We will come later to AI, and I will tell you that is my biggest motivation: bring back joy in architecture, because I really think we can. But anyway, so that was 1 to 3D line of products. Amazing partnerships with 3D printing companies, with TurboSquid, with what was their name? Dave Penhave, they made a company where you can design something and online you can order it, and it finds locally where somebody has a printer or a laser cutter or a metal or a water jet, and locally make it. And the whole idea there was that ideas will start flying around the world, but the products will be made locally. That was the whole concept of the. Anyway, after that, Brian Matthews, our genius CTO, who was probably the person who I learned most from about technology, figured out this company in France that was making 3D models from photos, so photogrammetry, and Autodesk bought the company. Dominique Poulican was the CEO. He now has Cinto startup. But the whole idea that, okay, we are a design company, we create 3D models, but do you always have to model 3D models? And how do you model the existing world? And we took that. It was doing a good job, but the meshes that it was producing were, number one, not of highest quality, and number two, there was no mesh reader that could read those models once you created them. So we started the initiative called Memento, which turned out into Recap Photo, and the Recap Photo, the photogrammetry tool that also was a scalable mesh engine that could read 2 gigabyte large meshes generated with photogrammetry. Oh my God, that was probably even more fun than Revit times, because, and 1 to 3D, I don't know, they're all fun. But this was all about starting to work with people like Dr. Louise Leakey in Kenya, the daughter of Richard Leakey, who was digitizing all the skulls that the Leakey family has found throughout the years, because when you touch them, they fall apart. But to be able to share them with others, then working with the Smithsonian, we made the software for them to digitize and give a tool to the curators to tell the stories about the digitized museum objects, because only 1% is in the museum.
Right.
Over, I don't know how many million objects are just stuck in drawers and stuffs. And also how many people go to the Smithsonian Museum, whereas you can give worldwide access if it's digitized. That is, by the way, that period when I gave the TEDx talk, The Future of Our Past, because I was talking about capturing that. And then we were working with marine biologists, capturing corals and remeasuring them.
Underwater photogrammetry. Incredible.
Exactly. And then capture over time, so that then I built literally a feature to compare two captures for the coral guy who was slightly, in order to see is the coral shrinking or growing and stuff. And then I worked with Iris van Herpen. She's a famous fashion designer, dear friend. She, on the other hand, she's like the Leonardo da Vinci of the 21st century, incredible woman, a brain that is incomprehensible in creativity. And when you see her stuff, everything is made with technology, but she does not see technology as the end, but just as another tool. But she was always curious about learning what's new, how can I use it? And one thing that we were trying to do with her about the capture was she makes so many of these dresses. Everything is handmade. She might use silicone parts, 3D printed thing, this and that. But at the end of the day, everything is hand adjusted, made. And sometimes just remembering how did you do the first dress is really important. So we were looking at digitizing, capturing different stages of the development of the dresses so that she keeps it as an archive, but also kind of auto-create some tutorials. That was kind of what we were trying. And with her and Gwendolyn Christie from Games of Thrones and the director of all the spots from David Bowie, we did a project. It's called The Dress, where it's a little movie where Gwendolyn Christie is playing some Icelandic goddess that is wearing her dresses. It's very artsy. But all to say, incredible partnerships and interesting projects by people who are truly interested in technology. How can this thing that this company for architects and engineers is making that can be applicable to me as a conservationist or as a doctor? We also worked with so many different professions, and that is the beauty when you have this cross-pollination of ideas. We even made one conference, it was called The Recap, with Elmer Ball and Ronald Pond. And we said, we're not going to invite one industry. We invited everybody, from mechanical engineers to architects to biologists to conservationists to curators, all talking about this one tech that helps them do things differently. And everybody learned some trick from the other industry. And that's interesting when you have such generally applicable technology. And when you look about that now, in the time when we were working on Memento, I needed to make maybe 250 photos of something in order to get a really precise capture. Sorry, you see, I have so many artifacts in my home. This is a saber tooth or some dinosaur. These are real, from real captures of real animals. We needed about 250 photos maybe to do really detailed capture. Now you have startups like World Lab, Fei Li's startup that is their goal is to create a world model that understands space and stuff. But now from 1 or 2 photos, you can already get a photogrammetry model. Right. At the moment, it's Gaussian splits, but the technology is just moving. It just called something else, but it's incredible how fast it moves. And remember, same with the 3D printing. It used to be so bad, and now the home printers are just incredible quality.
Right. This episode of the TRXL podcast is supported by Avail, and I wanted to share a piece of a conversation I recently had with one of Avail's customers. Check it out. What was the moment or the project that finally made your firm say, we actually need to manage this stuff? Do you remember?
I was there. We actually came from another platform. And so it was a platform that we felt like wasn't sort of really invested in the customer and wasn't really sort of understanding the customer's problems. They sort of had a much harder to navigate user interface. It made it harder to sort of upload and harvest these projects in the method that we wanted. And so we looked at a bunch of different products when we were abandoning that previous platform. We met Randall and his team, and we felt that these guys understand us. And so we went with their platform a number of years ago, and the community and the support that they've provided has kept us, lockstep with their advancements and development. And we just got a preview, I think, last month on some of the stuff that they're going to release this year, and couldn't be more excited. It's always something that I knew I wanted but couldn't quite articulate, and Randall always is able to do that for us. So this next roadmap is super exciting.
My thanks to Avail for supporting this episode of the TRXL podcast. Now let's get back to the conversation.
Anyway, so that was Recap and Memento, and then because we did that project for the Smithsonian, all of a sudden, other industries got interested in, wait, we want a 3D model viewing and telling stories in browser. So we started something called Project Play that was about 3D storytelling in browser, but using graphical nodes, not like Grasshopper and Dynamo, much simpler and in a language that is a little bit more understood. But it went into Autodesk Labs. There was so many industries interested just because it was allowing you to tell stories in a different way in browser. That was the beginning of 3D in browser. Sadly, Autodesk never continued that project because this is the last year where Carl Bass decided not to be a CEO anymore, and there was gonna be a new CEO, and Amar Hansfeld and Adriana Gnost were the co-CEOing. And that was the year 2018 where I moved to the AI lab. We just created the AI lab in Autodesk. And there were some things that I skipped. I was at some point product manager also of Alias Design, because Alias Design is incredible, but incredibly difficult to use. Mm-hmm. So this was at the time of the 1-to-3D. We were working on another 3D modeler that was incredible. That was not for the kids. It was more C curves and stuff, splines, but it was beautiful. And we were trying to break some concepts with the team in Toronto. That did not turn into a product. Autodesk didn't decide that that's the work to reorchestrate Alias Design was paying off, but we put that modeler in Fusion. That's the freeform modeling in Fusion, that technology. We called it Kalpana, I think. So 2018, we created the AI lab. Mike Haley, who used to be on the forefront of many of the technology things in Autodesk Cloud, that, he started the AI lab. And I joined as a strategist. The problem was it was too early. I like building products. And at that time, we were all trying to figure out what this thing will at all be. We were trying to figure out how the heck are we going to hire somebody when Google is paying at least 30 times more. Those were not the salaries that Autodesk could afford. So it was a wee bit too early for me to be there. One thing I did, and you can see it in a couple of the talks that I gave that year, was to allow ourselves, when you have no clue how the future would look like, you allow yourself to imagine one that you like. So with Dennis Martin, an incredible visual artist, and Mike, we developed a story of how a design of a chair would look like in the future with an agent. And I was actually inspired by a documentary that I saw about a very famous but very arrogant, difficult to work with German designer. And the documentary was how he works with his assistant, and he sits as a, change this, chop that off, put that back. Just telling the assistant what to do. And that inspired me to imagine, okay, what if somebody is inexhaustibly loyal, listening to you and doing whatever you want? And how would design look like? So we made this fantastic vision video that was a provocation of how do you design chairs. And then I started to show it to design societies or groups in San Francisco. And I was waiting for the reaction. And you could really tell what do designers and architects really like. This is me. I'm never going to give this to a machine. Versus, I would not mind that somebody just changes these 10 materials instead of me select, change, duplicate, select. Or,
right.
I've already done hundreds of chairs with 4 legs, with 3 legs, with this, with that. Why not just say, can you apply all legs, please, and see them? Anyway, it was the first moment I started to realize how interesting it will be to define what is really what we bring to the world as architects versus what is just craft, what is just, a skill that somebody else can do. There is experience, there is sensitivity, there is taste, there is this and that. But then there are also things that if they can be automated, then was that really your value? Which is very much the topic of today.
It sure is.
Anyway, I realized that the AI is going to be a long time before I make any product. So I decided to leave Autodesk. There was a startup who wanted me as a product manager. It was called Vela 3D, and they were making these $2 million machines for large scale, for high precision metal 3D printing for the space industry and medical. The whole idea is in space industry, you're using Canel titanium, or in medical, but you have a lot of cavities to make them light. But the internal cavities are of a kind that you can just clean it after that. And how to develop a technology for 3D printing that can print without the supports. So that was the whole thing. They have figured it out. In 1 year, with the amazing Cvetan Cvetanov and a team of 3-4 engineers, we built 2 production-grade software. One was how to design the product and the strategy, how to print it so that it leverages the best precision or skill. And the other one was for real-time monitoring of the machine while it's printing, because this is expensive stuff. Knowing a step ahead what needs to happen, and if the vision sees that that's not happening, then it auto-adjusts on the fly. So it's kind of closed.
Okay. Yeah, just cuts it off.
And today's is using those machines and that software, and I'm very proud of that. That was really tightly, well-led team by Benny Bueller. He's a genius. And that was great. And then, but I was commuting almost 5 hours a day for that job. So after a year and 2 software, I went to Benny and I said, Benny, From now on, it's only evolutionary. We set the two products. I think it's time for me to go. You can hire, for the money you pay me, other people who can help on other aspects of the software. And I left and I joined Bright Machines, which was about robotic automation of final assembly. That was with Amar and Brian. The idea was again the same. How do you make, and this was, by the way, also in Velo. You have these experts who know everything about stuff, but they don't know a thing about technology. In the case of Bright Machines, it was all about knowing how do you assemble things like this, phone and stuff. What's the strategy for automation of assembly? Is it better to start like this, which part you do first, second? But they don't know anything about technology. And now all of a sudden you want to instruct robots to do the work for you, but you want to use these experienced humans to instruct the robots. Mm-hmm. And so we were working on no-code, low-code instructions for an experienced engineer to tell the robot what to do, to basically write the recipe so that the robot, this was assembly lines of multiple robot cells connected to assemble a product. So we were doing that, and we tried also digital twin. That did not go anywhere just because that whole project was difficult because we were believing that we can generalize the process of assembly, and it turns out it's very difficult. It's very finicky, but it was very good learning. And all of a sudden I find myself and I say, what's happening to me? I'm all about aesthetics, beauty, design, and I'm in manufacturing. Where are my people? And I really needed to be back in my beautiful industries. And I totally by chance and mistake saw that IDEO was looking for executive software for emerging technologies. And I never thought I would work in a consultancy. Frankly, I didn't even know how consultancies work. I just loved IDEO and Tim Brown and David Kelly and everything they have done for the world of design, and design with big D and creativity with big C, in terms of, we can all be creative. It's not just something that is exclusive to certain people. And all the education they've done around design thinking, that was wonderful. Mm-hmm. So many talented people there. It was great. I left IDEO just because I am used to make products, and I was very frustrated to make ideas for other people and then not ever know if they will do it, not ever be able to say, hey, I worked on that, because you don't do that as a consultancy, but met fantastic people, experienced the culture, amazing thing, that company.
Yeah.
And and after IDEO, I came to Motif. So Amar called me.
And here we are. That was the short version. That was the short version.
That was the short version, yes. So anyway, Amar called me, and we were discussing in what capacity does it make sense to come back. And he had first initial ideas. And I was first hesitant because I said, Amar, I think AI will eat us all. I really believed that. And so we said, so let's try to do something about that. And I joined last April. A year. I just did a year there. The company exists already for 3 years. It's all friends who started it. Amar Hanspel, Brian Matthews, Lira Nikolovska, and Matt Jezik as the co-founders, all experienced technologists, all very, very versed in the AEC industry. We've all worked on all the AEC tools that Autodesk has done and in other companies, and we felt it's the right time for the industry to do a new tool, because it deserves it, and because there are new expectations for architects. So that's what we're working on now.
Talk about that part. I think that's super interesting. Like the industry deserves a new tool. I mean, that's a loaded statement, because it doesn't just mean, oh, it's like I have tools in my toolbox outside, and I don't deserve new tools just because there's some grease on my crescent wrench, right? It's like, for example. So, what do you mean by that? Because I think it's a provocation for sure.
It definitely is. And I'm just trying to see how do we not make this podcast 5 hours. Um,
Well, I
so
have a hard cutoff in 45 minutes, Tanya.
good.
So here we go.
No, so couple of things about deserving. Number one is you will hear me often say my biggest motivation of what I think AI will enable is the end of the terror of the technological expertise. And what I mean by that is we've been building tools in the past where we had to rely on experts all the time. When we built the first 3D modeling tools, you need 3D modeling expert, then rendering expert, then
Fighter pilots, right? Or at least
then being
commercial airline
expert.
pilots. Like you've got the dashboard with all the switches and all the gauges and all. Like remember
Exactly.
what it was like to operate V-Ray or even AutoCAD when it got the graphical user interface, or even before that with the command line.
And
It was
talk
like
about grasshopper and stuff. I mean,
you had to know it
you
all.
know,
Yeah, right,
so you have this mass of architects and you have the gods, the experts, you
right.
know. And that was to me a terror of the technological expertise.
Yeah,
It
good way to put
cannot
it.
be that a tool is good just for some people.
Yeah,
So I promised myself I will never again work on any tool that doesn't respect the whole ecosystem of players in that tool. And I really believe that the industry professionals deserve to have tools that serve them and not that they feel they serve the tool. I also, even when I was a product manager of Revit, I was saying, to me, it is not normal that an architectural firm will readily hire somebody who knows Revit but is not a good architect than somebody who doesn't know Revit but is a good architect. Because that should not be the differentiation. So there's so many industries that have been helped by technology. We have not yet made a tool that actually makes you make better buildings. Revit was not about making better buildings. Revit was about making better documentation. Did it help you learn from previous buildings? Nope. Did it help you create institutional knowledge? Nope. Did it help integrate every single player in the ecosystem? Nope. And what is the problem now? So first, a project, as you know, is so much more than just what's in the BIM model. Was any of that ever part of the BIM model? No. So when I say the AC industry deserves a better tool, it's simply that there was never a tool that really helped the industry make better buildings, make more beautiful environment, more meaningful environment. We constantly talk about how the industry is, what's the word? I hate every word about productivity and efficiency, so that's why I don't even remember them. But basically, the industry is inefficient. Well, why is that? It's because of errors very often, right? And because the margins are getting thinner, but the margins, again, it's all related to not working the right way, not having the right information, not having the right intelligence. If we do this right, architects can regain joy in making architecture, because guess what? When I studied architecture, I was not studying architecture to spend hours and hours reviewing quality control between the drawings and the code, or between the drawings and the spec, or between whatever a standard has been newly invented or newly added. And architects have more and more to do, and the margins are slimmer and slimmer.
Or learn a piece of software to become an expert in it, right? Like, did you
Which
become
they have to invest in, right?
Yep.
And then you train somebody for a couple of $1,000s, and then they leave for more money to another firm because now they're trained on the software. So how can we make software that doesn't need training? How can we make an environment that, instead of looking for clash detections, already prevents them while you're working on it? And just simply help architects or whoever in the process with things that machines are simply better than to do, and they never wanted to do it anyway, and liberate more brain power to actually start making, again, meaningful buildings. Because frankly, every architect friend that I have, they know how to make more beautiful. They know how to make more meaningful. They know how to make more sustainable. But at the end of the day, is budget and time, and will I even make any money on this? When you have those constraints so hard hitting on you, you're just happy to make the building. Let alone retake the power of the master builder architect and also come back to the client and say, you know what, this is stupid. Push back on the requirements. We never do that today because we're just so desperate to get more work.
Yeah.
And, I was talking with Alfonso from Hedevik, with Pablo. We all want to go into this build space and feel special. I must tell you the anecdote. 2 weeks ago, I was traveling a lot. I forgot to pay my property taxes of $700, and I had to go to pay it in person because you can't even pay online when you're late.
That's right. You went to the Civic Center, yes.
I went to the Civic Center of Frank Lloyd Wright. I promise you, Evan, I forgot that I'm paying $700.
You had a moment, didn't you? Yeah.
That place was so beautiful, and I've been many times. It has
and tell everybody what the building is, because people don't know the Civic Center.
Lucky for me, the Civic Center in San Rafael in Marin County, next to San Francisco, where I live, was the building last built, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. It was actually built posthumously after he was dead. The building, you can see the building if you have not been in the Bay Area in the movie Gattaca. It is incredible. It's just so beautiful. And every time I go there, I discover some new corner. And it's total design, to the door handle, to the letters, everything. And I just had such an awe. I, number one, forgot that I'm paying $700. And number two, I just remembered this is what Mama architecture does. It makes your everyday life, it makes you feel more understood. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel comfortable. It helps the social fabric. Somehow we don't.
It like raises your vibration, right? You go into these places, and I don't, maybe this is just an architect thing, but I don't think so, right? Because I know plenty of non-architects that I'll go visit the Guggenheim with, or to keep it in the Frank Lloyd Wright family. But it's like, you're just in awe. You are awestruck by, and a space can do that. Like it is amazing. And I think it's really important that you're saying this and connecting it to the idea of architects deserving better tools, because it's why we do what we do.
Yeah, that's what they want to do.
That goes back to that original impulse of, why did you even get into this in the first place, that you slowly forget over time because of all of those other constraints that you mentioned, right?
Yeah, we have all become numb. I stopped doing architecture because of that. Mm-hmm. Why can I not work here as an architect? Because they're local things. I'm still an architect. I still know how to design. I still know how to build. Is now the regulation, the local regulation, the limitation? I paid for 3 walls and 30 square feet renovation because my house is falling. $90,000 for an architect. I'm sorry, but that's a little bit too much for something that, it's like, but it is because of the way things are organized. The architect doesn't know how to draw in CAD, and he hires somebody else to draw the thing in CAD. It's like, this should be easier. And, I really feel we will have such a more beautiful world, and we'll refine joy in architecture. And frankly, with AI, I firmly believe that while at the moment it feels scary to architects, that some people now, charlatans, will pretend to be architects, they might just as well gain for the first time so much power, because the value of the project, it's in the knowledge. The knowledge is not just the BIM thing, it's all the different things. Why did we make decision? We always have a problem with this, et cetera, et cetera. And imagine when you have a tool that understands you, that starts to adjust to you, that starts to become you. It starts to build so much knowledge about the project that is your power now to go back to a client and offer new services. How do we know that the building was well done? How do we know that we design the good building. We don't. Well, maybe there is a way now to start orchestrating something and the architects to keep the living record of a building that is independent of owners and offering the services. Just an idea. But there is an incredible empowerment when you interweave intelligence within the design tools, and that intelligence can only come by the fact that you can incorporate every single channel of communication, every single type of document or standard or idea into that whole thing. So you start to understand provenance. You start to understand, hey, we had so many changes on this project. Why was that? And you start to learn. You know, I hear softwares that people make, oh, you can find all your details that you did before and you can reuse them. Great. How do you know they were good? So you might be just repeating
You could be using the same bad
that's
detail.
leaking in every building, you know?
Right.
Because there is nothing beyond just generate the artifact and nothing coming back, you know?
It's about that feedback loop, the loop part. Yes, the iterative part.
Then to your question, why do they deserve? Sadly, I believe that architectural education has also changed. We created this strange environment in which the most knowledgeable people about architecture, the seniors, do not participate in the digital process where everybody is. Mm-hmm. So there is a total breakdown of a knowledge transfer between the seniors and the juniors. Mm-hmm. So imagine me coming in as a junior in an office, all enthusiastic. I don't have time for 1 year to be apprentice of the senior architects. That is how I would have learned in the past, right? No, I'm thrown into software, I'm thrown into drawings. And if I am interested in sustainability, to focus on that, the sustainability expert in the company might never even be in a meeting where I am, nor have time to coach me or something. Yep. So by doing two things, one, allowing for the first time the senior architects to participate in a product, which is what we're trying to do, and I can share a little bit about that. And on the other hand, considering the software to be a tutor for the junior architects, we might find a new way to transfer the knowledge and to teach. Because if you have a simulator in the software that instantly gives you feedback, and the junior architect does a couple of different versions of something and gets immediately simulations of what that means, they will at least start developing an intuition. Mm. You know, I'm hearing people be scared. Oh my God, the young architects now with the AI, they have no experience. What will they do? Well, do you think it was better without? I mean,
that's a good point.
If they were going to do stupid things, do you think it was better without, or is it better if software can, you know, simulate the behavior, can give you some insights?
I think you mean pick up the slack from these older generation of architects who don't have time to, or the capacity to do.
No, and
even
the margins,
more,
it just is not. You cannot afford it, right?
To our own demise, though. I mean, like that. It's a little bit short-sighted, right? And it is interesting to kind of reframe that idea as a helpful way to get somewhere faster, because I mean, this industries, I'll just generically say it, industries don't just deserve to exist because they have existed previously, right? And I think there's a bit of an attitude that's like, what do you mean? This isn't going anywhere, right? But then you make a very small omission of strategy to say, no, our senior architects are going to intentionally mentor. You omit that part, and then what happens to those next generation of architects? Like, it's an unforeseen consequence, right? It's like, and we're doing that to ourselves. And it's absolutely true that we don't just deserve to exist because we have in the past.
Yeah. I mean, I'm currently working on quality control, agentic quality control. And it's not about, oh, here is a button and it's all sorted and you go fishing. It is really about, if you have made 100 mistakes, wouldn't you appreciate if a software finds the first 50 for you? You don't have to accept them. There might not be violations or something. But getting into quality control specifications They're literally expert specifiers who don't do anything else but that. It's a dying breed. These people know so much. And there are not many young people who want to do that job. What are we going to do? It's like,
right.
We are literally not taking seriously how much the change in education and the taste of younger people, what do they want to work, which professions do they want to do and which not, is also transforming. And the industry just might find itself impoverished by expertise that we're losing without trying to find any way to capture that. When I saw first AI, I was thinking, this is a brain, and which brains will you trust? The Claude brain, the this and that. But it's, I lost my thought. I was just going to say something. It will come back. In any case, I was thinking about what makes big architects big architects. What makes Hedervik? What makes Herzog, Foster? I don't want to, Perkins and Will, DLR, SOM, HOK. What makes their architecture? It's not like when you see a Gaudi, okay, it's the formal aspect of or Zaha. But even for Zaha, that's not what makes Zaha architecture. It's really the process. And is there a way to decode that DNA of a company so that when new people come, they can from day one already be part of the system that pulls them in through the tools and not have to be for a year there to understand what's happening. And also when somebody, God forbid, dies, we don't want that approach to design, to architecture to die. Can we decode that? Can we kind of understand what it means? And I think until now we have always been obsessed with storing and capturing beam elements, artifacts, but never captured the process.
Hoarding artifacts, right? We have meticulously hoarded artifacts for decades now, and I think
have about
it's
70 hard drives.
Right. Right. Okay.
But
So
what
this
about
is
the
super.
process?
This is super interesting. It's like again back to the why and a little bit of the how, right? But it's like instead of the what, it is not the stuff. It is the intangible or the invisible, maybe not intangible, but what they like, because it isn't just the end product. It's how did you actually get there, and that part is has been very difficult to capture. That is embodied in people. It is embodied in their experience, their wisdom. Yeah.
And I love that you said experience, because that's also the point. It's not just this is how it's done. Which of those things are pleasurably done and which are things that people hate doing? Also, think about it. We architects, even when I talk about knitting or cooking, I have a pencil and pen in my hand. I cannot, whenever we meet with somebody and we're talking, I said, I need a pencil. So if we architects express ourselves mostly through sketching and storytelling, can we not bring back those things again to be the main method of communication? And I firmly believe with AI we can. In Motif, we take it very seriously to consider that sketch is not just a way for a senior architect to start the process, because today they can start with sketch, you vectorize it, or you immediately generate rendering, you can generate a 3D. You can then, in Motif today, use the sketch over an image to change something, and it will re-render it as if it was modeled. So you can use it as an editing tool. And then we're working also on things where, with the research, where we're looking at, can we use sketch for searching things? So it becomes this, the celebration back of our most native ways of expression.
That's interesting. Like we're watching this text prompt window become ubiquitous, right? But the language of an architect is not words as much as it is like the interface that you're talking about.
It is in some places when it's a storytelling or when it's a brainstorming, but then.
But when it comes to realizing these ideas, right? It's like it's this very visual thing, and I think it's super interesting to talk about, because these new paradigms are now shifting, to turn the interface back into the sketch, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, very interesting.
No, that is really super important. And in Motif 1.0, in the current product that we have, when it comes to AI rendering, that was our first AI feature, we tried to address multiple of the things that I was talking. One is, everybody got excited by Nano Banana Pro, yay. But then when you tell the senior architects, go try it, and they try it, either changes the building or they get crappy results because they don't know how to prompt. Even the prompting was not necessarily, unless
It's
you
still a
spend
hurdle.
hours on it.
Yeah.
So what we did was we said, number one, we're less interested in writing a text, design me a brutalistic building on an island. That's not architecture, right? You might use something like that when you're exploring for, to give you some, when you're blocked and stuff. But more, I have an idea. It can be a sketch. It can be a Rhino sketch. It can be a little bit more developed Revit thing. How can I make my ideas further helped with a tool that helps me very quickly look at variations, be it geometrical but I don't need to model them. And there we use the sketch, again, either to start, but also we created these modifiers that are prepackaged. So if you don't know anything about prompting, etc., you can get consistently fantastic results for any time of the day, for any weather and stuff. If you want a little bit more, so first we did single click. You don't even need to use modifiers. You show me the view, single click, you get fantastic result. You want to fiddle a little bit more, time of day, this and that, you get more specific. You want to fiddle more with prompting, also you get more specific. And then if you want to now, okay, I like this, but it's not exactly what I want, then using the sketch and editing regions, you can start saying, but this I want slightly different than this. Control is very important. It's not just about a button, make it, but that idea that I was saying, everybody should be able to be welcome in the software. Through that, I called this swim, snorkel, dive when I was working on Memento. I said, for people who know nothing, like curators, non-technologists, they can swim with the technology. They're here, all the swimming belts are around you, but they get everything done without ever worrying about anything. Those who want a little bit more experience, they snorkel. Oh, modifiers here and there. And then those who know how to code and want to break down the system, they go dive. So it's really important to offer the interaction patterns in a way that they welcome everybody. And then not only how they express themselves, but in which form they receive back the information. For somebody like Matt Jezik, he would be happy if he gets back from me a code. I'm more visual. I want to express myself and get the results visually. Everybody is different, and we are trying to design a software that will allow for everybody to participate, and in a way and in a form in which, for their role and for their personality, that makes sense, so that they can give their best contribution. And then there's some interesting things also that have excited me that we're working towards is I want the software to get me. I want that software to know it's me using it. And if I told you yesterday, I never ever want to see asbestos anywhere, please remember that. But the thing is, we have also we've called personalization when you can make your little interface or this and that, great. The point is, if really you build the software from the get-go for machine understanding, which no software has been done until now because we never knew how far the machine understanding can be. And what we are trying to do in Motif, we're not just working on a new building intelligence modeling that is having learned from Revit what was good, but also what was unsolved, to make a model that is much more powerful, much more flexible, allowing you to extend it in your way and stuff. But along with that, that would not be enough for the industry. Doing agentic stuff, everybody can do that piping today. separately and put it on top of tools. That's also not going to win. The two together, building from the get-go an intelligence that is interwoven and agentic behavior that from the get-go understands the BIM model that is built for inferability, you will get very, very different insights and intelligence that helps you both throughout the process, but also helps you sell different services in the future. So I do think that the architectural profession will change. I am not sure it will change for worse. It is, at the end of the day, I spoke with Marta from Foster's, with others. I said, if you guys don't define what will you be paid in the future for, then the owners will decide for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think, and all the best brains in the industry are all friends and they're meeting often at conferences. And I really think that there are lots of opportunities. They should ignore the noise that is usual when you have new technologies, like people pretending to be architects, or, oh, now property developers are using some generative tool and they don't need an architect anymore. The architects are saying, you know what, if you think that's architecture, we don't even want that project,
Right.
But there will be a lot of confusion. There will be some commotion. But I really feel between building institutional knowledge, getting back the joy, because you will have less and less things to check and worry about. Let the machines do what they're good at. Don't see them as a final outcome because it's your licensing question. So you still check, especially until you build trust, until the technologies are good enough to trust. You can use it as a starting point, But there will be there will be shifts. We are to define them, and not we, the technologists, we, the architects. But need to understand what's good about it. And I don't know if I told you, I made a talk. I need to record it, which is I'm always trying to find a way how to internalize for professionals what can some new technology do. Mm-hmm. And for AI, I developed a story. I call them the AI deities. And there are 5 AI gods. And I say, imagine you're born as the luckiest human in the world that has the full loyalty and devotion by 5 gods. And they are Prometheus, Hermes, Augur, Mnemosyne, and Zeus. And the first one, Prometheus, everybody knows him from the fire. No, it's not about the fire. He actually, according to Ovid's Metamorphoses, created the first humans from soil and water. He created something that never existed before. AI can do that. They can do something that never existed before. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Then you have Hermes that basically, I think the word Hermes comes from hermetics, which is the science of interpretation, and the whole idea that you can translate from one language to another. This is what AIs do really well. It's that multimodal fluency. You can move from text to image to video to table to this and to that. It's so enabling. That's why you can have so many other, different levels of expertise talk to each other still, because there will always be a language translation that, And then there is Augur, and I think he was the one who was always, when the gods say something, he was doing the kind of the decision-making. Is that a good thing for the humans, or is it a bad thing for the humans? And then you have, I can never pronounce the Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. How can you remember something so that it is personal and it knows, it gets you, it knows what you want, it knows how you care about things, what type of workflows do you do, what type of aesthetics do you like? And slowly but surely, I tell customers, when you buy Motif, when we have it, 6 months into usage, your Motif and my Motif will not be the same. It will start to become really a part of your company's staff and DNA and maybe your value in the future, because you'll be building that internal brain of your company that would be based on graphs, be it semantic graphs, knowledge graphs, this and that, but it will grow. And you can leverage that past knowledge for future predictions, for being, for not repeating mistakes and stuff like that. And at the end, I talk about Zeus, that is the orchestrator. Olympus is a chaos, just like the AC industry. And you need somebody to orchestrate that chaos. Mm-hmm. And that is where the agentic work comes, where if you have something that orchestrates different humans and different AIs and different processes, it might be really interesting.
Let's take a short break from the conversation to invite you to join the most influential technology leaders in the AEC industry at Confluence. Composed of in-person events and a podcast co-hosted by yours truly, Confluence is designed to foster conversations between AEC firms and technology companies so they can learn, share, and engage with each other to support industry innovation. Software company Avail, which creates content management solutions for the AEC industry, started hosting Confluence events in 2019 to understand what firms are needing, wanting, and thinking around technology. To learn more about Confluence, explore upcoming events, and listen to podcast episodes, go to confluence.getavail.com. My thanks to Confluence for supporting this episode of the TRXL podcast. And now, let's get back to the conversation. I like how you bounced when you said that. You're so excited. So, okay.
I'm so depressed about AI impact on society. I have to be excited about the little world of
you have to look for the
AI in AEC.
The mnemonic part is really interesting to me because, okay, so I'm trying to be really careful not to say this the wrong way, because I think there's multiple ways you could interpret this, but it's like it actually makes me want to think, if I was a practicing architect and I was doing projects and it got to know me and it got to know my tastes and it got to know what the potentials were, that things that I have the insights for, that like it's very personal, like you were saying. It also makes me start to think of, and this is where I want to be really careful, is who do I want to be? Who do I want to be known? What do I want to be known for? How? Because what I'm trying not to say is like that you are some version that is not good enough. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that, like, if there's more potential to be something like what is the next version of an architect that this unlocks? And how do we start to steer ourselves to get there, rather than focus just on the efficiency and the things that we talked about earlier that so many people are focused on, right? And charging less and the race to the bottom and all those things. And it's like, no, what could you become? And I have this conversation like with my teenagers, right? Who are like who could you be? And I want them to dream about it. And I want them to be big. I want them to be bold about it. And I feel like there's a real opportunity for architects in this paradigm that is we're seeing unfold in front of us.
You can't be more right. I am shocked as a human, as a citizen of the world, that we measure everything with cost and speed. And I think humanity is disappearing because we started measuring everything with cost and speed. Optimizations, efficiencies are not the words why our profession started to exist in the first place. It was first and foremost to make a beautiful world, meaningful, from shelter to cultural to social to everything. And today we're trying to fix the wrong things in the industry. We have accepted this industry will always have mistakes and it will always be a mess. So now we're trying to take that as a standard and try to find patches instead of saying, can technology help us actually not be that? And then we don't ever need to know about optimizations and efficiencies. Because to be honest with you, it's like doing things fast, or only because, now with AI, you can do this faster. I'm sorry, but faster is not better. Faster is when you make mistakes or you're doing something you don't understand. And
or it's not realizing its full potential either, right? Like
no,
there's
but what happens to our brains even?
right.
There will be what was that? There was a not atrophy, but we literally are at risk to start forgetting to think and to think critically. And to me, that is really scary because you only develop yourself as a human and get new ideas while thinking hard about something. And if that is not anymore what we do, it's kind of, I don't even want to imagine that society in which we are becoming little imbeciles and counting on, I hear so often saying, well, maybe there is no need of schools anymore because, hey, the kids can now get everything from, they can just open
look it up. Just look it up.
Claude.
Yeah, just ask the question,
And
right?
my intuition is that you need more than ever to have good education because not only they will not know what to ask, but they will not even know to believe when it says, oh, the sun is green and square, and not understanding that something that rotates all the time cannot be square or whatever. It's like, it really worries me that all of these conversations about efficiency, optimizations, productivity, and especially when you think of AI automation, that's why I'm not at all excited about automation and doing things instead of you. But I always think of AI as something that helps you do the things you need to do, either more pleasurable or more informed, etc. Because if we lose the process of thinking about hard problems, our brains will calcify. I mean, what are we expecting to do? We will be recycling ideas that were done 50 years ago, and they're just mutating into some, God knows what it will be, So that worries me a lot, and I really feel like we're missing, nobody's talking about that. Everybody's like, you can do things faster. Aside from the fact of those not serious Silicon Valley conversations where, oh, well, the software can answer emails for you so you can be a better friend, or you can spend more time with your family because you can do your work in 10% of the time. And then they stop and they say, no, continue. So I did my work in 10% of the time. Will my company now pay me the full salary for that 10% because I'm going on vacation with my family in the meantime? It's like all of these things that are not even thought through, but are, I think, losing the ability to be really critical thinkers is really a problem. And if we can rather think of these agents and these helpers as something that you can really interact with, like real polymaths, not me, who can pull from different directions whenever you're, but wait, I'm talking often to Claude, and then I say, what you said is just weird because if I think of this, that makes no sense. And it's always like, well, that's a very sharp observation, and you're right, I missed that. But it's that conversation, not because Claude is smart or me is smart, it's because certain things only happen to think about them once you start the conversation. But if you have no more conversations,
right,
where are we going?
That gets back to the, and I don't mean to like beleaguer this, but the idea of the process and how important the process is and how much we learn in the process. It's not like somebody comes to you, you're the expert, you know the answer. This is not a math equation. There's not one answer, right? The design process, the architectural process is not a literal equation. It is not an algorithm. It is non-deterministic, right? It is And that is the wonderful part about it. And I think that's why architects are so engaged. And even with your circuitous career path, like the engagement is off the charts because of the unknown and because of the exploration. And anyway, that to me is like we need to own that part of it and not say, you don't just come to us for the answer. You come to us for
absolutely not at all. You're given a thinking partner that you never could afford, and embrace it. We have no idea what this will mean, so we got to think about it and not just lazily, and the future is really I think less about certainty, but more about how do you manage probabilities. Because as we're moving from deterministic systems that we were building, where they were based on science, they were based on fixed formulas, you always get the same results. That was AutoCAD, that was Revit, in our world, to probabilistic systems that are more powerful, but not predictable. It can have 1,000 answers, and it will never give you the same one.
Right.
We will have to think differently. And, when we think about what's happening in a world of infinite content that we're all exposed to, we're exhausted. You don't know anymore what to do. As a product manager, the role of product managers is definitely changing from somebody who was defining stuff to somebody who literally decides what to do. So the curation starts to become more important than the generation, and that is how it will happen for architects as well. If Prometheus can do anything from scratch, just on some prompts, why would I ever start from scratch? Why would I ever start with an empty PowerPoint, empty document, empty drawing sheet, but actually start from something that it already understood from few instructions, and then start curating, modifying, editing, rather than, and I think where it's going for sure is, when we talk about AI at the end of the day is nothing special. When you think in our world with BIM, the AI will hallucinate less, more access to information you give it. And that is what will make a better AI or worse AI. If you build a system 25 years ago, you did not build it for that. So there are lots of things in that system that are hidden that the AI has to invent. Where did that come from? Maybe from here, maybe from here. That's where you cannot trust results and stuff. But this whole combination of a very deterministic world in which, especially the AC industry is, and now this non-deterministic, probabilistic way, it will take us a while to trust it. For some things, it might never work. But those will be the interesting things, how we manage and de-risk this world of probabilities that are not necessarily for sure correct. But mental obesity is my worry, and conversations like this are what brings us forward, and we just have to have a very healthy relationship with this technology.
I feel like this is part one, Tanja. This was part one.
I forget that we're on a recording in the podcast.
Well, that to me just says we've got to do this again. This has been a really amazing conversation, and we've been all over the place, and I still feel like there's still so much more to talk about. There's still so much more. And
and it might be also interesting to have maybe more than two people and open a bigger discussion. It's if we ever needed to converse, share, talk, and learn from each other, it's definitely this period. I can tell you what's coming is going to hit us so strong. We will have no clue unless we start saying, maybe it will be that. Let's build the ship for that. And
let's build the ship. Let's build the ship.
Let's build the ship.
All right.
Anyway, thank you so much for inviting me. You had so many smart people on your podcast. I'm always kind of rambling, and I don't know if it is of any use
was
for anybody
amazing.
to listen to it. But
No.
thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you for doing what you do, Evan. It's really, especially in these times, just being exposed to the people that you invite and hearing everybody's, it doesn't matter if somebody's right or wrong. This is humanity. It's about different ways of looking at the same problem. And
Amazing.
you enable that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you. That actually means a lot. I have 2 things I'd ask of you before you go. 1, hit subscribe right now if you haven't already. It's totally free. It takes 1 click, and I'm really trying to get to 1,500 subscribers. We're not there yet, and every single one counts. If this show has been worth your time, that's the easiest thing you can do. Number 2, if you want to go further, if you want to support independent coverage of this industry and get ad-free episodes of the podcast, plus my full Leadership Edge newsletter, head over to trxl.co and click the join button. The link is in the show notes. $12 a month, and you'll be one of the people who actually makes this possible. All right, that's a wrap. Subscribe, share it with someone who would get it, and I'll see you in the next one.